Okay, next flipped lesson for graphing quadratics is going to be when we have the quadratic in standard form. So we've talked about intercept form, we've talked about vertex form, and now we're going to talk about standard form. Same basic idea. We're going to learn how to find the vertex in this form, the x-intercepts in this form, and then also the y-intercept in this form. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to know what standard form is. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, big thing here is that A tells us whether we open up or down. Okay, and when we're in that standard form, in order to find the vertex, we are going to first find the x-coordinate and do that by plugging in the formula x equals negative b over 2a. Once we have our x-coordinate for our vertex, we can find our y-coordinate by substituting this number back into the original equation. So we need both coordinates, x and y. Find your x by negative b over 2a. Remember, this negative sign really means switch the sign and divide by 2a, and then use that value to plug in to get our y coordinate. So our quadratic formula then to find our x-intercepts, we were going to plug into our quadratic formula. That's how we find our x-intercepts. And once we simplify that, remember there could be a possibility of 2, 1, or 0 different x-intercepts. Now that doesn't mean that those are the actual numbers for the x-intercepts. That means that is how many different options there possibly are. We could have two different ones, one that is the same one twice, or 0 x-intercepts. Okay, so for this, before we do that, we're going to look at how to find the vertex. So I'm going to recopy that problem down. Negative x squared minus 6x plus 7. And to find our vertex, we start by doing our negative b over 2a. So that negative b means the opposite sign, so we're going to have 6 over 2 times a negative 1 is our a value, so really negative 2, which tells us that x is a negative 3. So if I'm trying to figure out my vertex, I know my x-coordinate is negative 3. And now I need to plug in my quadratic formula, so I'm going to have a negative times a negative 3 squared minus 6 times a negative 3 plus 7. So like I said, we're plugging that in here. Negative of a negative 3 squared minus 6 times negative 3 plus 7. If we simplify all those, we'd have a negative 9 plus 18 plus 7. If we add all those together, we get that that y is 16. So our vertex would be at negative 3, 16. And then again, like I said, we're opening down. Okay, if we talk about our x-intercepts then, so we're going back to our quadratic formula. And we're going to plug that into that big ugly thing. So negative b becomes 6. Plus or minus, we have that big ugly square root. Negative 6 squared minus 4 times a times c. And then it's all over 2 times a. So this goes back to before spring break for us this year. And we need to simplify under the square root first. So if I plug this whole thing into my calculator at once, I'm going to have 6 plus or minus. This would give me, let's see, if I plug it all in at once, I'd have 36 plus 28 would give us the square root of 64 all over a negative 2. And again, going one more step, keeping to simplify, we're going to have 6 plus or minus the square root of 64 is 8. Over negative 2. And at this point we had two different solutions. So we split one to have 6 plus 8 over negative 2, which would give us 14 over negative 2. So one of our x-intercepts would be negative 7, 14 divided by negative 2. And then we're going to have 6 minus 8 over negative 2, which gives us a negative 2 over negative 2. Or our other one is a positive 1. So those are our two x-intercepts. So we found both the vertex and the x-intercepts now. Only thing we have left to do is to find the y-intercept. And on this one, the y-intercept is kind of easy because we're actually just going to have 0c. So if our equation is negative x squared minus 6x plus 7, well, this is c here. So our y-intercept is 0, 7 for this problem. Okay, and we would do the same thing that we've done for other ones when graphing. We found our vertex. In this case it was, I believe, negative 3, 16. We found our x-intercepts, negative 7, 0, and 1, 0. And then our y-intercept, which was 0, 7. Put all those on your graph. find your point of symmetry like we talked about in class the other day, and then we can graph them, and we are done then. All right, we'll see you next time.